TYTSports.
If you smell
what the rock is a cooking. You guys seem to love the WWE video brought to you by Josh, Chief Joshiola, a good friend of ours over at TYT. You've seen him do a few videos before. Some great shirts that he wears. Big WWE fan. He even writes about the WWE. So we want to bring you more WWE. Before we get there, this episode is brought to you by Squarespace. You can start building your website today with a free trial at squarespace.com/TYT. Squarespace. Build it beautiful. So Josh, please take it away. We bring you, Francis, what will it be?
The Illuminati.
No, not the Illuminati. It will be the best finishing moves of all time.
Of all
What's
time.
your favorite?
Absolutely the People's Elbow.
As I'm a huge fan of too, but I don't know if that's going to make Josh's list. Let's see what he has to say.
Thanks, guys, and thanks again to TYT for allowing me to do another video about something so many of us know and love, and that is professional wrestling. Today, we're going to be going over the top 10 finishing moves of all time. So, how do you pick just 10 out of the literally hundreds of finishers there are to choose from in professional wrestling from all around the world? Well, I had to come up with some criteria. So, the three things to keep in mind as we go through this list are: number one, the move has to be well known. I wanted to create a list that appealed to both casual and hardcore fans. So you won't see things like the Burning Hammer or the Rainmaker. As awesome as those moves are, they just aren't very well known. So they're out. Number two, it has to have some legitimacy. So you're not going to see the Hogan leg drop on here. As iconic as it may be, it's just not that great of a finishing move in my opinion. It's just not. It's a leg drop. It's not that impressive. So what are you going to do? And number three, it has to have some kind of finesse. To me, a finishing move should be something that not everybody in the world can do. It should be something that requires a little bit of skill, whether it's because of the add-ons to it or its association with the wrestler themselves. There has to be something unique about it. So keep those three things in mind as we go through this list. So let's begin. Number 10, I wanted to start out with a tag team maneuver, and that is the 3D, the Dudley Death Drop. It's such a great maneuver, made famous by the Dudley Boys. The crowd gets so into it as it gets set up. Everybody yells out 3D, and then it's put on. And then when they added in the tables and stuff like that, it's just such a great, great maneuver that everybody likes. Recently, Eric Rowan and Luke Harper used it on an episode of Raw, which prompted the Dudley Boys to take to Twitter and ask, hey, thanks a lot for using our maneuver and not giving us any credit. And you wonder if the WWE was doing that on purpose in order to maybe set up a future match between those tag teams or not. We can only hope so, because that would be so great to see. Number 9 is the Shooting Star Press. The Shooting Star Press is on here because it's one of the few moves that the WWE actually banned back in 2005 because wrestlers were botching them and hurting themselves and each other. Brock Lesnar botched it once. Billy Kidman botched it once. So WWE just was through with it. I mean, it's a backflip done in midair. Now, to be fair, it's actually used now by a guy named Adrian Neville. He does a variation of it called the corkscrew shooting star press, but he's one of the few people who can pull it off with little to no danger of actually screwing it up just because he's such an incredible athlete. But it's still a fantastic move, and it looks great. Number 8 is the power bomb. The power bomb, people may say, oh, well, why with the power bomb? The power bomb is very plain and stuff like that. But the power bomb is iconic and historic. And it's such a great maneuver that has so many varieties. I mean, think about some of the great wrestlers in the past who have used it and are using it now. Kevin Nash used it. The Undertaker used it for a while as the last ride when he was the biker taker. And now Kevin Owens uses another version, the pop-up powerbomb. I mean, there's over 30 variations of this maneuver, and it's so devastating and so satisfying that it definitely belongs on this list. Number 7, the Sharpshooter, aka the Scorpion Hold, made famous by Bret Hart, even though technically Bret Hart didn't know how to do the maneuver. He had to be taught it by Conan, somewhat ironically. This is all detailed in his autobiography, where he says, I was told to use this maneuver called the Scorpion Hold, and I had no idea how to do it. Conan taught it to him, and now it's one of the moves that's synonymous with him. Sting uses it as well as the Scorpion Deathlock, and it's such a great move just because it's all twisty and you get their legs tied up in it, and it just looks like it's really, really painful, and I'm sure it is. Number 6, the RKO, the Ace Crusher, or the Diamond Cutter, whatever you want to call it. But when something creates its own internet meme, it certainly deserves to be on this list. And what's great about the RKO is that it can be performed from almost anywhere. And that's how we came with the hashtag RKO out of nowhere, which is such a great thing. And if you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend you check it out on YouTube. And people look so forward to seeing Randy Orton put it on somebody, whether it's inside the ring, outside the ring. And that's what makes it fun. Number 5, The sweet chin music. Sweet chin music is literally just a super kick. The super kick was actually created by a guy named Gentleman Chris Adams, who did not have a wrestling background. He had a judo background. So he decided to incorporate some of the moves he had learned in martial arts training, and so he created the super kick. And this is in the early 80s, in a time before it was being performed by a lot of wrestlers. Shawn Michaels incorporated it and then took it another step further by creating sweet chin music and tuning up the band, as he calls it, where he does the theatrical foot stomp right before the execution of the move. It's a complete telegraph, but that doesn't matter because a lot like the 3D, it gets the crowd into it. They're anticipating the move and they're really looking forward to seeing it connect and seeing the end of the match. Number 4 had to include the pedigree. People may disagree that the pedigree should be this high or should be on the list at all, but Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the guy is a legend. He's a living legend. He's one of the few active wrestlers on this list who will be in the Hall of Fame very shortly, and he's lives and breathes wrestling. He is the heir apparent to the company after Vince McMahon. I mean, he's his real life son-in-law, and he's in charge of talent relations in real life, and he's just such a great asset to the company. You want somebody like that running your business, who understands it and who loves it. He has a passion for it. And if you've seen the pedigree performed, it's a double underhook facebuster, and man, does it look painful. It just really looks like it hurts. And not a lot of other wrestlers use it. In fact, I think I've only seen it performed by another female wrestler, with the exception of Seth Rollins, who has now used the finishing maneuvers of everybody in Evolution. But you know, it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. Number 3, another iconic submission hold, the figure 4 leg lock. The figure 4 leg lock was actually created by a guy named Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Now, you may think, Nature Boy, okay, that's Ric Flair's name. Ric Flair copied the entire persona of Buddy Rogers, and he didn't do it in an insulting manner. He did it as an homage to the guy, because Buddy Rogers is considered one of the legends of the day when professional wrestling was reported in the newspaper, recorded on the radio, things like that. So Ric Flair, as he gained popularity, he wanted to show respect to Buddy Rogers, and so he copied his mannerisms, his maneuver, and even took his name, and also took his finishing move. Buddy Rogers called it the figure 4 grapevine. And it's such a great maneuver and extremely painful. If you're like me, you practiced it on your friends in college, and man, does it hurt. And it just looks so great. Number 2, the Stone Cold Stunner. The Stone Cold Stunner. You can't have a top 10 finishing move list without the Stone Cold Stunner. Kids in high schools and colleges all around the country perform the Stone Cold Stunner on each other, or a variation thereof. This is another move that was created by a different wrestler, a guy named Mikey Whipwreck, who created it. He called it the Whippersnapper, but it didn't gain popularity in mainstream until Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin was a blue-collar hero during the Attitude Era, and everybody just wanted to see him perform the Stone Cold Stunner to his boss, Vince McMahon, and then in some kind of way it was representative of them doing it to their boss and authority. But it's such a great move, like a kick to the stomach and then this like a chin buster maneuver. And the great thing about the move was how well it was sold by some wrestlers. If you ever watched The Rock take a Stone Cold Stunner, I don't think anyone sold it better than he did, where he would almost do a handstand and completely flip over and hurl his body behind himself. And it was very entertaining to watch. Very good maneuver. And that brings us to number 1, the number 1 move on my list, the top 10 finishing moves of all time, the F5. Now, hold on. Think of it this way. The F5, number 1, it's unique. There's only one other guy who performs it that I know of, a guy named Ryan Wilson in TNA, and I don't even believe he wrestles anymore. And the only reason he could perform it was because he was 7 feet tall. He was a gigantic, gigantic man. And that's part of the reason why this move is so unique, is because you have to have an incredible amount of body strength. You're taking a guy from a fireman's carry and then lifting them up and turning it into a spinning facebuster. It requires an enormous amount of strength to pick these guys up, who on average weigh well over 200 pounds. 200 pounds of muscle and man meat. And you're just picking the guy up, spinning him around in the air, and then slamming him onto the ground. It's so incredible. And back in the day, Brock Lesnar used to do this when he was feuding with the Hardy Boys. He used to do this routinely on not just the ring, but the outside of the ring, up on the stage area, so they were falling on concrete and metal. And you see a guy taking a fall from 6, 7, possibly 8 feet face first onto the ground. Yeah, that looks like it hurts. that requires a lot of finesse. That is certainly unique in the WWE, and you don't see anyone else performing that maneuver around. So for that reason, the F5 takes the #1 spot on our list. Well, I hope you enjoyed the top 10 finishing moves of all time, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much
Thank
to
you,
Josh.
thank you.
As always, Josh's videos are very entertaining. I do love his videos.
They are
and
really good.
thank you to Squarespace. If you want to build your own website, make sure to head over to squarespace.com/TYT and start your free trial and get 10% off your first purchase. Make sure to head over to Squarespace. Build it beautiful.